everybody, and welcome back to Jellyfish Joining a Fan Channel. Now, is there a point of having my own YouTube channel, even if it's celebrating jellyfish, if I can't chat with some of my favorite musicians who I've been lucky enough to become friends with? I feel very lucky to have made some good friends throughout the years who I've been able to work with as well. And one of them, if not at the top of the list, well, yeah, I'm going to say at the top of the list, certainly for the purposes of this interview, because also I'm going to tell him how wonderful he is throughout this entire interview. Um, he is Daniel Ash, aka Teenage Waitress. How are you doing today?
That was very, very kind. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. And yeah, I'm so glad that we made that connection too. I'm doing great. Thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, Newcastle have just won the Carabao Cup. Um,
Oh, really?
I do apologise to all Liverpool fans. I'm not even a football fan, but you get caught up in the in the mood, in the atmosphere.
I'm in
So it's
my
quite.
own little bubble where football doesn't exist. So that's I'd love to have some great response to that, but cool.
Well, like I say, I'm not a huge football fan. Like, and I'm nothing against it. As you can tell, I'm into far more credible sports like professional wrestling and things like that. So, um, but yeah, it's been a little while. So, like, just for those who don't know you, so um, we you will have been recommended certainly, or you will have posted something for yourself of your old band, and the recommendations will have come in thick and fast, sort of thing, through a lot of those sort of power pop groups, because I'm assuming that's how we met, because I don't know how otherwise, and I do apologize.
I think it was through Harry. I think it was when Harry was in Sweetheart.
Makes sense.
I think you commented on something of his, and it might have even been jellyfish related. It might have been this reminds of jellyfish or something like that. Because I think it was that. I think it's because I didn't know many people that knew jellyfish, and when I saw that comment, I was like, okay, I would probably get on with this guy, and I'd like to know more people that know jellyfish. So I think that's how it happened.
That makes a lot of sense, and I will be chatting with Harry at some point as well. Because I mean, yours and his music. I mean, I was literally thinking of at one point that the next album that I write will just be to try and impress you and Harry, because I feel like sort of you are like sort of two sort of very different pages of the same book, sort of thing, and I feel like somewhere I'm sort of a third page, sort
Yeah,
of
oh,
near the
definitely.
back or something like that, you know. But
How are you getting on? I mean, you've impressed me already. But I'm very, very keen to hear more. So how are you getting on?
yeah, things are well. We'll get more into it because we sort of ventured down similar routes with teaching and working with charities and stuff like that. So yeah, but this is about you. The Lost Boys. We chatted about uh that band on a previous interview that we must have done in like what 2017 or something
Yeah,
like
a
that.
long time ago.
And so much has happened since then. So for those who don't know, once the band ended, I mean, it was the next project already in mind, Teenage Waitress, or was it going to be something else?
Uh, well, the funny thing about Teenage Waitress is that it was only supposed to be a one-off thing for myself. I had started thinking about doing it because I think I was approaching 30. We'd done a Lost Boys album where we crowdfunded it, and uh, we played a couple of shows to celebrate it. But it did kind of feel like that's a really nice place to stop. And we didn't even like announce a split or anything like that. It just kind of stopped because it kind of felt. I think the album was the thing I always wanted to do as well, just because I love that art form and the kind of the nerdy stuff, the sequencing, the kind of light and shade, and all of that stuff fascinates me. And all the time we were in Lost Boys, we were doing EPs and singles, and that album was the big thing. And when we did that, uh, I wasn't really sure where to go next. So we didn't announce anything, but it just kind of stopped. And I think we were all a bit tired because we had to record the album 3 times. It was a real nightmare of a project, which is why we had to do crowdfunding because we basically spent, I think, £1.5 grand on a version of the album which we were really unhappy with. So like we had to crowdfund to be able to afford to record it a second time, which we did.
That must have been
And then,
fun.
sorry,
That must have been fun.
it was really fun the second time, but
Okay.
the but then the hard drive with it all on crashed in the studio, and we had to go back and do it a third time. And it kind of played in our favor because we were all a bit pissed off, and we were all. It kind of comes through on the record. It's quite an angry record anyway, and
It
it
is.
kind of shows. And it's good that we're playing it like that, and we were able to do it live and faster, and we were able to tweak things with every time we did it. But we were so kind of lethargic from it all, um, that I think we just needed a long break afterwards. And I was thinking of doing a solo thing because I was getting to 30, and I thought I'd love to do a solo album, and I really want to work with this producer called Mike Bissett, who uh, I'd met briefly at university when I went to uni for a year, and I knew that I wanted to do something with him, and the stars just kind of aligned, and it was like, okay, I want to just do a one album, release it for myself. I don't care if anybody even listens to it or gives the time of day. I just want to record a solo album just for myself, for my 30th birthday or whatever, and did it. And then, of course, I wanted to go back on the ride straight away. As soon as I'd finished, I was like, yeah, again, right, let's do another one. And so then another album came, and then start thinking about playing it live, and then yeah. Now we're here where there's a live band. I'm doing gigs. I've got a third album that's kind of coming out. I don't know when, to be honest. It's just been finished, so some point this year. And there'll be a run of gigs for that, sort of in stores. So yeah, it's kind of gone from this little one-off bucket list thing to something that I enjoyed so much that I just couldn't stop doing.
The reaction though to Living Chemicals was such that it must have been a motivating factor as well to continue. And Your Cuckoo obviously took off to what feels like another level. So and also in between that time, you actually played with Harry. You were in his band for
Oh, that was fun. That was really
for
good fun.
for a little bit as well. Um, but I, when my sort of standard band fell to pieces, which is, I mean, it's a different situation to yours because I was kind of leading it and writing everything and arranging and sort of
Yeah.
it's that Bowie thing of Tin Machine where he didn't know really what democracy was until he demanded one. With that, that's what it was with me. But then I realized that because my tastes were expanding during that time as well, and I realized what kind of I could be allowed to do if I made my own album, sort of thing. With and it seems crazy that like I would feel restricted before that, but I didn't even know that I could do something and
Yeah. Yeah.
be okay that I've done it. Even if it like a synth line or something like that, it felt almost like I guess how artists may have felt in at the time in the 80s when like sort of analog synths came out where you could just press one button and it could do a lot of different things. And I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm cheating by doing this, but no, actually, this sound really works and it appeals to me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
screw what anyone else thinks. So the long way around with that question is, did you feel that you could, incorporate your influences a lot more with your solo work?
Yeah, I did. And I so like when I did have this idea for doing a solo album before I was 30 or whatever, whilst Lost Boys were still doing their album. I was like, okay, I could do this as a side thing because of that reason for what you were saying. Because with the Lost Boys, we were a band in a room, and that's how songs were built and put together and arranged. But I was becoming increasingly more interested with writing on a computer and experimenting with things. all these kind of things that you can't do if there's just four people that have got their instrument. Like I was messing around with synth sounds and brass and all these kind of colors and textures that weren't available in that project. And also the freedom of being able to like to to keep looping things without frustrating a room full of musicians. Okay, okay, we're going to do that bar over and over and over again, and I'm going to improvise over it and find something. I can set that all up on the computer and write it that way. That's really how I write now. I do everything through the computer. But that was a real game changer, and it was like, okay, I can still write these kind of songs that I'll bring to the Lost Boys and we'll work it out as a band in a room or whatever. But I've got a second pile of songs now where these songs that have come to life through writing with a computer and the kind of fancy dress box, I guess, of like instruments and things that I'd never worked with before, being able to dress something up in a completely new way. It was kind of fascinating. And that's why it all kind of happened that way.
Was the kind of, with it being a band as well and a marketable entity, was there a thinking of that you wanted to be contemporary and be signed to a major label? Because obviously that I would think that would be anyone's goal. Like and now like the mindset is different because of things like crowdfunding and stuff, but also because of career opportunities that your your very visible skills have led to. Like, was there a different mindset at that time?
In the old band, for the first kind of half of it, yeah, like there was that kind of um naivety, I guess, kind of that kind of youthful thing of it's going to be the next song, it's going to be the next album, it's going to be the one that makes it, and also that kind of fixation on which I try not to get too wrapped up in now, and the fixation of numbers, like this amount of people have streamed it, or this amount of people have come to the gig, and just hyper sort of focusing on those kind of things. Um, and I actually hit a wall probably in my mid to late 20s where I realized that that's not where any of the fun actually lies. Like that is actually the most that sucks the most fun out of it. Like that is where it starts becoming uh yeah, just not a fun thing to do because you're obsessed over the great stuff is when you're writing music, right? The great stuff is when you're coming up with these ideas and you're exciting yourself and you're surprising yourself. And I just kind of got sick of driving all the way to Manchester to play to like two people that I was so glad were there to watch us. But
And
it
Darlington.
yeah, yeah. But it just that
Oh
was
no,
kind
no,
of
not Darlington, Middlesbrough. Sorry, that's
Middlesbrough,
where I
yeah.
saw
No,
you guys.
I loved those. They were great because I was able to meet you and like hang out with you and like
Yeah,
and there were other people there as well. But there were other gigs that were like way quieter, and it didn't feel like anything was building there. And again, that's not I kind of the fun stuff for me is like playing songs with your friends and like not wasting all your money getting somewhere and not getting paid for it to we were finding that we weren't even getting paid for expenses and just were taking anything because we thought this it's going to be the next song, it's going to be but um that kind of naivety and that hope, it's really important to begin with, but you do kind of get a reality check halfway through, which is what happened to me, and I kind of realized that um the fun stuff is like is the creative side of it, and that's where I get the most kind of satisfaction from, and that's kind of that's what I focus on now. Like I really try hard to not look at figures and to not be disheartened by figures or kind of book things that I think aren't going to be worth it or going to like I just want to I'm just kind of here to write and record and put it out there. And if someone wants to listen to it, great. But I'm not going to beat myself up if no one else does because that's not the point of doing it anymore.
you forget that. I mean, I'm not built for promotion. Because I mean, I did a Kickstarter and my hair nearly fell out. And you do forget after a lot of promotion that, or I do, that I'm actually hopefully a songwriter and a creative person. And because you spend so long trying to promote the last thing that you've written and stuff like
Yeah.
that, and you see it with bigger bands as well. Like they tour the previous album for so long
Yeah.
that the next album might not even be as good because they either haven't given themselves enough time to do it or they're mentally exhausted and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
and with the Teenage Waitress stuff, not only does it feel like you feel so at home with the music that you're making now. And also, again, it has led to other really cool things, such as, what you do for a living, basically, and, the fact that you've worked with charities and stuff like that as well. And, it's really lovely to see. It's quite inspiring, to be honest, because it's kind of what I'm trying to do as well. And so for those who I hate to be this person, but like for those who don't know Teenage Waitress,
No,
it
no.
if you had to sum it up in like three or four sort of influences, what would you do?
Okay. So this I always think about this because it really uh it's quite a schizophrenic project. There's lots of songs in different genres, and that's always kind of been my thing. Um, so like I guess in I do it in
You don't have to say the Beatles. I think the Beatles are a given, and then we'll give Beatles a given for everything, and then sort of everything sort of goes from there. So
okay,
that makes that makes it easier.
I'll do it in 4 words. A mixtape for you. Because my favorite albums all sound like mixtapes. They're all the ones where it's like, the White Album kind of thing, or Ram, or Fleetwood Mac's Tusk, where there's like all these kind of different contrasting ideas thrown at the wall, and it's like this is what it is. Take it or leave it. I mean, I do love like a kind of focused record as well, but my favorite ones are the ones that always kind of take you by surprise with every track, and that's kind of that's something that I've been trying to do with Teenage Waitress, and I I think it helps to kind of like uh be a kind of fierce consumer. And like that, I think that's probably a product of that as well, because I am obsessed with so many different types of music. And if I like the day I first listened to Joni Mitchell's Blue, I wrote like 3 songs exactly that vein, because at that time that's exactly what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And the same thing happens when I heard the Specials first album, and I I quite like, again, that's again it's kind of a product of that, but also the fact that I wrote on a computer, and so I've not got a band of like a guitarist, a bassist, a drummer, and a singer, and like that's all I've got to play with. I've got the world to play with when I'm writing. So if I want to write a reggae song, I can do it, and I've got the tools and the sounds and the instruments to do that. And if I want to try something as a electronic piece, I can do that as well. So like I think it's kind of a bit of both. But yeah, I guess yeah, in the kind of most simple terms, I try and make the best mixtape that you've never heard.
Which is because you're a very modest person, but also like I believe you when you say that as well. That you aim to make it the best mixtape
Oh,
that
thank
we've ever heard. So I know that you're well. We were randomly. I was in Southampton and I got to stay with Harry. This mythical Harry. I will be interviewing Harry at some point. But me and Harry sat in a pub, and Harry mentioned Big Star to you for the first
you.
time.
Yeah,
It's so lovely to have like seen that the genesis of that sort of thing. So, how quickly did Big Star become a thing in your life?
that they became an obsession as well, and that's so funny that you remember that, because that's exactly how it happened, and I always think about that being my introduction to Big Star, because Harry told me about the album, uh the second album. What's it called? What's it called? Why have I totally forgot what it's called? Number one record, Radio City. He told me to go and listen to Radio City, And I am one of those people, like most people you tell, so you recommend them to something to someone and they'll go, oh yeah, 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 yeah. And they won't do it. I'm probably the only person in the world that if you tell me an album to go listen to, the next day I will go and buy it and listen to it. And so I went, I think I went to HMV because I was still trying to push away uh, streaming and all that stuff. I think it was streaming was going on at the time and downloads and stuff, but like I was still pretty old school, and I still am. If I can afford to be, I will buy as much as I can. But yeah, the next day I went and brought that and I listened to it religiously, and
You went in completely blind then.
completely blind. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I love doing that. I kind of do that with I do that with films. I'll go and see a film without knowing what it's about. Same with albums. Like it happens quite a lot with albums, but especially if something's recommended to me, I will like go and find it like immediately. And I did like the next day.
Yeah.
I went and got it, and just yeah, they became like a huge band for me. And like I don't think I listened to anybody else for about 6 months. They've only got like 3 records, but they're all no, they've got a fourth one as well. Sorry, but it's often forgotten about. Case in point.
It's like the sort of the post Odyssey and Oracle album, the Rest in
Yeah,
Peace
exactly that. You always kind
album.
of, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, forget about it. I've not spent as much time with it as well. But the 3 records are so good, and they're all quite different as well. And a bit like like the Jellyfish way of like they've got 2 records and that they both have their own personality.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that was the thing. Like, the connection with Omnivore. They released the box set of Big Stars Third, and the that was my introduction.
Oh, fantastic! That's brilliant. The box set as well. Like,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah. Um, they can pull at your heartstrings like
yeah,
very few other bands, I
yeah,
find.
yeah.
Um,
That's got Holocaust on, isn't it? It's got Blue Moon and Take Care. So many just like lovely songs. Like it's like more of a mellow collection, but like that's kind of what I'm always after anyway. Like I think Radio City's way more of a kind of power poppy, 30 minutes like chimey guitars, but I really love how kind of I don't know, just kind of how mellow and reflective that third is. And it kind of feels like it's going to fall apart any second.
well, for since this is a jellyfish channel, what do you remember where you discovered jellyfish for the first time?
Yes. So we were compared to Jellyfish in the Lost Boys frequently. So it was Jellyfish and Squeeze were the 2 names that used to always come up in pieces and reviews.
Yeah.
And I wasn't familiar with them, but I did my usual thing of going the next day to the music shop, and I went and got Belly Button, and I really liked it. And it wasn't until because like again like I'm quite obsessive. So if I like something, then I will rinse it, and then the next week I'll go and buy the next one. I'm not. I was speaking to a friend actually recently, um, who kind of treats music, like so he buys a lot of music, and he sort of treats it like wine. Like he'll buy the album and he'll sort of put it in the shelf until the right time. And I can't do that. Like he's got favorite bands that have got like records that he hasn't heard. But I've just no way, no chance. Like
Yeah.
I will rinse it, then find the next one, then rinse that. And when I got Spilt Milk, that really sealed the deal. That was the game changer. I love Belly Button, but I really liked was what I was saying about the kind of like genre hopping
Hmm.
records. Spilt Milk did that more for me. It's more of like a kind of variety show, I'd say, with things like Bye 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 and Hush and Sabrina. It kind of yeah, lots of kind of genre hopping, which is
Russian
very
Hill. I mean, Russian Hill is like one of those songs that I'm quite. I shouldn't be surprised, but I kind of am because it's one of the less jellyfishy sounding songs. But
yeah, it's like Nick Drake thing,
what
isn't
does
it?
that really mean? Because I think if you describe jellyfish, you would say it's something with that kind of swing, kind of Ghost at Number One, or Now She Knows She's Wrong, kind of
Yeah,
that kind of rhythm to it with the
yeah,
harpsichord and everything. But Russian Hill is like constantly voted like on little polls that are put out there as as people's favorites as well. And that's the thing. Was it kind of weird to you then to be compared to Jellyfish at the time, having not heard them? Because that's the thing. I would say Jellyfish is certainly it's in there, but I wouldn't say that you're as jellyfishy as some of the other artists that I know because you have such a palette. You know, you've got the storytelling of like Bob Dylan, and
Thank you. That's very kind.
you know, you tell stories so well in your songs,
Oh, thank you very much.
and
That's really kind. Thank you.
it's such relatable stories as well. Because I've, you know, there's a you can be nostalgic without being just sort of trapped in the past, and you know you can write about your history and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
modernize it and stuff like that. And you've done that with a lot of songs where I'm like, it's still now with the Lost Boys stuff and with subsequent stuff. Um, I really do think I'm going through this or I've been through this sort of thing.
Oh, thank you. No, that's lovely
Yeah.
to hear. That's so nice to hear. I really, really appreciate that.
So I don't know what the question was. Yeah, no. So you were compared to jellyfish, but without having heard them. So did you see correlations in there, or did jellyfish then turn you on more to kind of push things like harmonies and different instruments in your arrangements and stuff like
Mm.
that?
Bit both, I think. I think the thing that I thought immediately, I could see some shared DNA, mainly with the kind of like kind of jangly sort of melody led and heart and like lots and lots of harmonies. Um, uh, but the impression I always got, I mean, I don't know a great deal about the members of Jellyfish, to be honest. But the impression I always got is so like I'm a sort of songwriter musician that's learned everything I've ever learned through like listening and feel. Like I can't read music. I don't know any theory whatsoever. It's all through feel and listening to things like when I was growing up and listening to things like Hunky Dory, like Kooks has that key change at the end, which I felt I could sort of feel it. I didn't know that it was a key change until I kind of like got a bit older and learned a bit more about music. But really, like that's kind of that's my knowledge of theory. Oh, that's a key change. I know what it's called now. But like, I always got the impression that Jellyfish were kind of like uh seasoned pros at that kind of stuff. They knew what they were doing. Like I don't know the rules, which is almost in many ways kind of like like a magic a magic trick for me, like because I don't understand what I'm doing, and that will often lead to ideas and kind of, but I always felt like they're kind of totally in control. They understand how music works and the ins and outs, and it's this kind of huge um tapestry made by people that understand everything about how music works.
Yeah.
um that was what I always thought about them. Like they're these people that know exactly what they're doing. It's all perfectly orchestrated and put together. Whereas I'm just sort of blagging it. Same with like harmonies. Like I kind of learned how to sing harmonies just through listening to the Beatles. But I can open my mouth and sing a harmony on a record without working it out. Whereas I feel like someone like Jellyfish will sit down and write the Brian Wilson kind of way, write 5-part harmonies or whatever. Which I couldn't do that off the top of my head, but I could certainly do a sort of John Paul kind of harmony without.
Only way I can do it. I mean, like with the key change on Philly Heart.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
oh, did you say Cooks? You said Cooks.
Coots, yeah, yeah,
You said yes, you did say Cooks. But they're very much one and the same in terms of songs for me, Cooks and
yeah,
Philly
yeah.
Heart.
They kind of join, don't they?
Um, but the key change on Cooks, the sort of the violin run up as well, that could have been one of a few different kind of scales that like could have been
Yeah,
chosen for that. And the
yeah,
fact that it's that kind of scale that is done because it's not. I don't think it's not chromatic. I
yeah,
don't think. Um, but it's like that type of thing that I will use something like that for a song to go from something into a key change. I use lots of runs. I
that's
use
good.
runs all the time on various things, but like putting harmonies together, my sort of way of doing it is it's always usually it's 6-part harmonies and it's
Yeah,
partly the queen thing, but I do it with say I've got an acoustic guitar with me and let's say the chord progression that I'm singing over is A, E, and D.
yeah,
I'll pluck just the bottom string, which is the E,
yeah,
so that would be like E, R, No, E, F sharp and E. So it would go and then I'd do the A string, and it may go or then that
Yeah.
kind of. That's how I build
Cool.
sort of thing. But again, absolutely no. Um, Anything that I learned at college is just went one in one ear and kind of out the other, sort of thing. But yeah, and so because I want to talk obviously more about your stuff and upcoming shows that you have as well. But it would be lovely to talk very briefly about um, the fact that I was able to cajole you into singing one of my songs.
That was
um,
fun. That was really good fun.
there's a yeah, it's a song called "Just One Beer," which I mean, I don't think I could write like that anymore because I think it was the slight sort of oh God, I was still in my twenties. That's depressing. But it was kind of like a real song about like the amount that I used to sort of drink in, you know, during the MySpace days. So thankfully, none of that footage or photographs still exists. But I was able to, you know, you were very kind and sang that song for me because I was looking for different musicians on or different singers on every track.
Oh,
And
pleasure.
I did feel that it certainly suited your voice, but yeah, you didn't sing it in the studio, did you?
No, do you remember? Did I tell you this? I did it in my
Yes, you
car.
did.
Yeah, on an iPad in my car, and I didn't really have much in the way of studio gear back then, but that was the kind of the quietest space, and I think I did it around midnight. It was very late because I used to work shift work at Blockbuster and would get home about 10:30. So it would have been sort of 11, between 11 and 12 with a laptop with the track in my headphone and an iPad trying to sing into the and yeah, I'm so grateful that you asked. It was so much fun, and it was such a fun song to sing as well um because of all the interesting changes in it. And again, these things that I don't understand, but I love how they sound. It's like the Life on Mars chord sequences and the changes in that. Like I will never understand how they all sit together, but I know like it's that kind of like taking you by surprise, going to an unexpected chord. I wish I could put that in a bottle because I would put it on put it on every song I ever write from now on. But
For me, like just I mean, I swear I'll stop talking about me. But the like I love not just the unexpected chord, but it's using the same melody over a different chord progression.
yeah,
That helps tell the story, not just with lyrics, but with the music as well. I'm a big fan of that. Like Too Much Too Little Too Late. It's the same melody on the hook line, but there's different chords behind each time that they
yeah,
sing it,
yeah,
and
very
that's
clever.
why it's one of my favorite Jellyfish songs. It's and how the last time they sing it goes back into the riff that starts the song,
Mm.
and yeah, it's oh, there's a
That's
reason
a
why
great one.
Jellyfish.
That's a
Yeah,
great one. I think it's funny you say Russian Hill is a fan favorite because I think that's my favorite as well. That and Bed Spring Kiss,
mm.
both the slowies basically. They're my faves.
Oh, amazing. So another, yeah, because I want to talk about some of the amazing things that you've done supporting the zombies as much as yeah, as along with some of the other things that you've done. But I would love to briefly talk about your fandom of Divine Comedy. Um, so, what era of Divine Comedy do you like? Do you have a favorite album, favorite song?
Regeneration is my favorite actually.
Wow. Okay.
Because it's like I was taught. So actually, this was that album was recommended to me by a friend of mine, and I love how it kind of it stands apart from everything else in their catalog. Really, it is kind of its own thing, um, and it's also one of the ones I got into later. Like I wasn't aware of that one, so it took it. It's kind of it's going back to that whole thing of having like a the bottle of wine or whatever that you save or whatever. That it kind of has a special place in my heart because of that. Because it's like the one that got away maybe. But it's a wicked record. How about you? What's your favorite?
Oh, I mean, it sounds cliche because it was Casanova for the longest time,
Great. That's great. Amazing.
but I think probably as a full album now, probably Bang Goes the Knighthood.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, that's a good one. That's a
yeah,
really good one.
because Neil started playing piano a lot more and wrote a lot of songs on piano for that album. And Down on the Street Below, I think, is one of his finest
Mm.
songs. But yeah, probably that. And I got given that as a promotional copy by a friend, and yeah, I think that was around the time that I was like writing that album, the Bus Ferry album,
Oh, okay. Okay.
and it did have a, a, a quite an impact on me certainly. But yeah,
Like,
have you?
yeah, because
Did you ever? You've seen Combined Comedy Live? Have you ever met Neil? Oh,
no, I haven't. I've only seen him once, and that
okay.
was at a festival. So I got the kind of festival greatest hits set that you'll get. But um, loved it. Really, like I really want to go and see like net because I think they've got a new record coming out soon, haven't they? And there will inevitably be a tour as well. So yeah, it's about time I kind of went to see a full night with the Divine Comedy. So yeah, I think
Those Barbican gigs where he was doing every single album,
old
and it
records.
was
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
pot luck which albums you got, sort of thing through like a lottery of tickets, sort of thing. But yeah, I wish
yeah,
I
yeah.
could have went and seen that. But yeah. So how early into the Teenage Waitress project did you start gigging, and when did you start getting noticed enough to be able to do things like support the fucking zombies?
Well,
Because
that,
that's
that
insane.
that's more a case of me pestering people, unfortunately. That's not people coming to me. The weird thing about the first album came out 2020. So like
Well,
the day it came out, I couldn't do anything to celebrate apart from like a live stream, which I did, but it just kind of felt weird. Um, so really, the gigs started ramping up when the second album came out. We did a load of in stores, uh, jumped on some supports, and yeah, that's when the zombies one sort of happened. That was a case of yeah, because I mean I love the zombies, and I saw that they were doing a UK tour, and I just basically got in touch with their team, and they very kindly offered me. I think we were supposed to do a couple of dates originally, but something changed, and we got a date in Kendal with the zombies, and that was it's mind blowing because I like Odyssey and Oracle is like just like it's a like staple top three album. Like maybe even my favorite album of all time on some days. Like I feel like I've learned everything about songwriting from that album. It's just perfect.
did you play Rod's last ever gig then? 'Cause-
So I believe they played a festival the day after,
okay.
and that was the last one.
Oh,
But the last zombies gig, as in a show, a zombies show, I guess, yeah. And it was amazing. Like I was just kind of on cloud nine for the rest of that month because they are such an important band to me. Like they really like I can't emphasize that enough how important that album was to me on my journey. And like whenever I hit like a kind of creative drought or whatever, I will go back to Odyssey and Oracle and I will like be fired up and ready to write something again after giving it a spin. It's magic.
fantastic. Well, that's it. My first. An old friend, Michael, introduced me to the Zombies. I didn't know the albums, etc. But I remember being shown a Rose Family and some other things, and I was just
Okay.
like, "Oh my God, these are amazing!" And I could spend the day, which is maybe one of my favorite Zombie songs, the dual piano solo.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Do you know what? Funnily enough, the vocal on that almost reminds me of like Queen. It's funny you say that because I can hear like something in the timbre of his voice. It's like kind of early Freddie Mercury in that.
Hmm?
Um, I've always thought that whenever I heard it, it kind of reminds me of Queen. So yes, it's funny that you should say that because I know how much of a Queen head you are as well.
We could talk about Queen forever, but the everything's falling off this settee that I'm sat on. That's probably where you could hear like clangs and stuff before. Yeah, I got to see the Zombies at the Sage, which is now the International Glass House. I think you've got to come if you want to come to a venue that is one of the best sounding venues that you'll ever go to in your life. The Sage is just wonderful. So I got to see the Zombies there. I was front row. I was on Rod's side. Jim Rodford was there still.
Oh,
Um, and I got a picture with him, which was lovely. And you could. I'm terrible because I can't remember the guitarist's name. Um, but
It's
the guy with the grey hair.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so he did the Breathe Out, Breathe In album.
yeah,
He did on Any Other Way. That acoustic guitar solo is just it will melt your face off. And the so I sat, but you can't hear. I couldn't hear it because I was sat right in front of Rod,
yeah,
and it's so life affirming when Rod is doing like a keyboard solo and like you hold your head up and he's staring directly at you. He's not
yeah.
even looking at the keyboard. He's like sort of like that, you know. And I'm just like, God, like I'm wondering if I've done anything wrong because he won't stop staring at me. But I've probably got some shit-eating grin on my face that I can't wipe off because the zombies are right in front of me. And I remember I stood outside. It was me and like one other person for about an hour, and I think the rest of them had already made their escape. But Colin came out, and I got to briefly meet Colin and get a photograph with him and
That's really nice.
uh, tell him how much how much he means to me.
Yeah,
Um, she
that's
loves the
so.
way she loves the way she loves. He loves the way she loves.
That's a great song as well. I love that. All this because like that. There's a bunch of songs from that era that never made the follow up album, right? And there's like, um, they're all so good. Like I'll Call You Mine,
Friends of
Imagine
mine, I
One.
think.
Friend of Mine. Yeah, that's on Odyssey and Oracle, but I do love that
Oh,
album. That song as
okay.
well. But Walking in the Sun, like there's just
Dun, 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 dun. But that's the thing. Like the when I got the album, I first got it on a CD, but it had all of the other tracks on there as well. So
yes, yeah, yeah. So
that's why I get confused about what's on the album, what's not. And then I got the box set
yeah,
after that as well.
that's
Um, just they're incredible. Their ability to
Tom.
write.
That is his name, by the way. It's just come to me. I was going to say Rooney, but it didn't quite feel right. It's Tom.
There you go. So their ability to sort of write the 2 to 3 minute pop song, but use all these jazzy chords and in a way that like the Beatles weren't even doing at that point. It would be unfair for those who think that they're just a contemporary of the Beatles or someone that would just directly influenced by the Beatles would be very unfair, because the songwriting is just not that the Beatles obviously isn't, but the Zombies is just something else that almost appeals to me in a way that the Beatles can't appeal to me. Like there's just something there, and it's kind of intangible to me. I don't know what it is,
It's some
but it was
special power, isn't there? Some extra kind of magic, for sure.
yeah. And Colin's vocals have never waned either.
No, that's that. Okay, that's kind of like a that was something that really stood out to me when I saw them was just like how great they still were. Like when Rod Argent was playing the sort of time of the season solo,
Yeah,
I couldn't believe that that was a man of his age doing that, and Colin Bloodstone's voice was impeccable. Um, yeah, it kind of blew my mind to see that, and it's so inspiring to see that you could still be that good when you're that age, and you've
I
been
agree.
doing it that long. Yeah, yeah.
I have to ask in terms of like potential influences, where did 10cc stand on your list?
They are a fairly new discovery. I went to see them live um, with my dad last year and knew very little apart from like a couple of obvious ones, like I'm Not in Love, which is like a masterpiece.
Mhm.
But I was so impressed. And since seeing them live, I've been devouring their back catalogue. And there's so much great, like, yeah, it's kind of, there's lots of, it couldn't be more up my street. It's kind of, they remind me a lot of like XTC, who I got into a couple of years ago as well. Although obviously they were before XTC, but they were, right? They must have been. Yeah, they would have been.
Yes. We'll probably get people commenting saying that we're both wrong, but that's fine.
Yeah. Uh, but yeah, they share lots of DNA with lots of other bands that I like, and
Yeah.
yeah, just great songwriting and like really kind of interesting turns and twists throughout the songs, and just really well written songs. And again, melody first, isn't it? And that's if you're an artist or a band or that are working in that way where the melody is kind of king, then yeah, I'm already in.
And the post Godly and Cream stuff as well
Yeah,
after they left the band is
yeah,
still absolutely top notch.
yeah.
There's a song called Iceberg off How Dare You, which is
I don't know if I've
incredibly.
heard that actually. I will listen.
That's the first. It's a song with uh, oh God, Things You Do for Love, all that kind of stuff. Because that's post Godly and
Oh, I
Cream.
know that. Yeah, yeah,
That was kind of like they were still able to have a hit album after that with like an incredible album, and
yeah,
then they kind of I think their time had kind of started to wane after that in terms
yeah,
of the big hits sort of
yeah.
thing. But Eric Stewart is incredible. Like all of their solo stuff, you've got to check out Godly and Cream's solo stuff as well. So inventive.
I think
Um,
that's coming next for me. Like,
oh,
so I'm sort of working my way through now. But yeah, they are right up my street.
start with a song called, and that just a coincidence that's called this, but it's called An Englishman in New York, but it's very different, and it's a very sort of like dystopian, futuristic, because they were very inventive with the instrumentation and synths, and I think it was Eric Stewart who he had a thing called it was like an effects box on his guitar called the Gizmo,
Yeah,
and that was used, very experimentally, going forward as well. Because I think a lot of like the sort of the looping of the vocals on Not in Love,
yeah,
that comes more from their side, whereas the classic pop songwriting side kind of more comes from Graham Goldman, who had a lot of hits in the '60s for
yeah,
various other bands as well. And like his catalog of work is just ridiculous.
yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted to see if you like how I love that you're on a bit of a 10cc journey.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm right in the middle of it at the moment, and it's nice when you kind of get that where have this band been all my life moment
mhm.
because yeah, really
Yeah,
really enjoy.
I kind of feel like off air. I'll make some recommendations that I
Please
think
do, yeah.
you'll be very much a fan of. Now, so in terms of actually playing gigs, now you have two very inventive shows coming up, which are going to be in the style of PowerPoint presentations. Um, I hate to ask about direct influences, but are you a fan of Dave Gorman?
No, but I found well actually, do you know what? I remember watching is it like the Google Whack that show that he did? I
Yes,
remember watching that on TV when they aired it on Channel 4 or something like that. That's the only Dave Gorman thing I know. But I remember really enjoying that and trying to find my own Google Wax and stuff. Um, but someone else said the other day, "Oh, it's like Dave Gorman," when I explained what I was doing, and I was like, "Oh, he's done that as well, has he?" And yeah,
he
I
does.
suppose
He does that. It's almost like a double act. Him and the PowerPoint. He uses it on everything. But I mean, it's very good company to be in, and to be the only
that.
musician to be doing it.
Yeah, yeah,
But again, Dave Goldman's sort of like his the ideas that he has for how he presents, because he's not really a stand-up comedian, but
yeah.
he has had a stand-up gig, but his best work is sort of like he has a show called Modern Life is Goodish, which is on Dave, the
Oh,
channel, and he kind of chooses subjects and talks about them, via a PowerPoint, and I'd highly recommend them. But what
oh, okay.
led to if not Dave Gorman, then what led to you um, going the PowerPoint route?
So so last year I wrote and recorded the third Teenage Waitress album, and I've also been working on a book all about songwriting. And it dawned on me pretty quickly that the album was going to be pretty hard to produce live on a stage. It's very produced, very it's like a super layered, I guess you'd say. So it's going to require a lot of thought and gear to be able to perform a lot of that stuff live. However, I thought, what if I just kind of push it in the other direction and take the book out on the road for a couple of dates, play some of the songs, because like the book is kind of all about little tips and tricks that I picked up along the way. And there are songs that are relevant to those things. So how about I play those songs, talk about what, I've written about in the book, and sort of road test some of that material with some like visual aids and stuff as I'm going. Um, so that idea came to me. We were actually in Japan. I went to Japan with my partner last year, and I was sat in an onsen. You know what an onsen is, and like a natural spring
No, no.
where Japanese people tend to go after work to relax, and it's like a natural spring bath. Um, Completely starkers. Like it's disrespectful to wear clothes there, and you just kind of sit. And the whole point is you don't have conversations with anybody. You don't. All you do is you just sit and you think or you relax or whatever. That's the whole point of those kind of places. And that idea came to me in an onsen. I was just sat in an onsen, like thinking, how on earth am I going to do this third album live? And the answer came: do a PowerPoint. And so I'm only going to give it like there's only two shows. I'm going to give it a whirl, see what happens, see if I like it, see how the stories go down. Because like there's lots, it's not even just like how the songs are written and the techniques, it's also like the stories behind them and how things sort of leak into songs and stuff like that. It's quite an interesting area in general. Like I quite like hearing about the creative process and then the stuff going on behind the curtains. So like I wanted to just try that, and it meant that I could do it, strip back, and just sort of play the songs as they were written.
Yeah.
And yeah, the book's coming out at the end of the year, but it's kind of just a chance to try some of that material out whilst I work out how I'm going to do album three live.
And you're playing 25th of April because the plan is to get this up before the gigs happen, and you'll be playing in Brighton at the Folklore Rooms, and then 26th of April at the Railway in Winchester.
Correct.
What I'm going to do is because I do this for most of the interviews, I try and make the background of this. The wallpaper of this theme
Yeah.
be connected to the gig. So I'm going to have some kind of PowerPoint or the image of you pointing and us be on the
Great.
screen
Great.
because I'm trying to get better at editing and make it look a bit more fun. So there'll be something fun for that. But yeah, that's very exciting, and that feels like something you could. I'm not trying to sway you, but if you wanted to take that on the road, close to Newcastle, I certainly wouldn't.
I'd love to. I think basically I just want to make sure that it's not the worst decision I've ever made in my life due to and sit and make sure that it goes okay. If it goes okay, then like I'm definitely thinking about like a London and a Northern date, because it would be so easy as well. Like I could hop on a train and do it as long as they've got a projector and a screen.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm very keen to do more, but I just want to double check that they're not going to be the two worst nights of my life before committing to even more. So yeah,
I'm
fingers
guessing though
crossed.
you've tried it in your room and you've tried it in front of your partner, etc., and it seemed or your family or whatever, and it's
So we've been rehearsing. I haven't tried it in front of my partner yet, but I will be soon. Um, and the other thing is I kind of natter a lot on stage anyway. I kind of talk a lot between songs, so it's really just like an extension of that with some silly pictures, and kind of shaped a bit more, I guess, into a show. So I'm kind of yeah, I'm no stranger to just like waffling on, but hopefully it'll be a little bit more organized.
well, you're very creative, so it's great to see your creativity spill out in unique ways. That's lovely. I wouldn't dare ask what your favorite Beatles song is because I guess it changes regularly.
Uh, well, my favorite Beatles album is the White Album, so it'd probably be something off that. It'd probably be something like "Happiness Is a Warm Gun,"
Mhm.
uh, because again, it's just like the kind of weirdness of that song, the weird shape of it, like a song suite, like your Bohemian Rhapsody kind of thing, where there's all these section by section. I was always kind of fascinated by that, and it does it all in about 3 minutes. That's my answer for that. I reckon "Happiness Is a
Okay.
Warm."
Well, I didn't. I wasn't going to ask, but I certainly kind of fooled you into answering the question. Did you speak to a lad called Clark Gilmore by any chance? He's a resident player at the Cavern. Um,
I don't know if I did.
I know him through wrestling. Actually, he's a big wrestling fan.
Oh,
And yeah, he's worth reaching out to as well. He's
that's
he's
cool.
really cool, and like I say, he's the resident player. Then there's no reason why you shouldn't be playing like the IPO again
Cool.
as
Okay,
well.
thank you.
So like because I'm guessing, have you played the cabin? Yeah. Oh
Yeah, a long time ago with the Lost Boys. Yeah, and I left my Ray-Bans there. So if anyone finds them, please
no.
send to the usual address.
Uh, oh well, look. I want to thank you for taking part in this because it's been a good old while since we've chatted, and
Been
you
lovely.
know, um,
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. Really, really enjoyed it. It's been great to catch up, and yeah, just honored to be asked. So thank you.
not at all. I feel like I've asked a lot of you throughout the years in terms of
Oh,
like helping me with projects and stuff like that.
nah, not at all. Keep
But just
asking.
one of these days you'll see it. No, but, yeah, we spent a day in London together.
Yeah, yeah.
We've kind of met each other. We're only in person probably about 5 or 6 times over the course of like maybe over 10 years now. But like
Yeah.
I hold you incredibly highly as a musician and as a friend as well. A friend that I don't get to see too much, but it's always lovely
Man.
when we do get a chance to catch up. So
Thank you,
um,
man. Right back at you as well.
well, I appreciate that. So, where may people find your music? Are there still physical vinyl still to buy? Because Rough Trade stopped your stuff. Do they still have your stuff?
They should do. If not, just look for Teenage Waitress online. I've got a couple of copies in a box. There's not many copies of Your Cuckoo left. The first one's all gone, Love and Chemicals, but I've got 3 or 4 Your Cuckoos left. So if anybody wants them, I'll definitely sign and send over.
Hmm.
But yeah, just come and find me on Instagram. That's where I normally spend my time. And yeah,
That's
hope you like
lovely. And you are going to be playing us a song as well. And is it going to be a song from the new album or from a previous?
I haven't quite worked it out yet. I'm gonna hit record and see what happens.
Well,
What my voice
that's very exciting.
says.
It just goes to show I am not doing this for any financial gain because it will take away all the copyright if you play a song on this video. So I'm doing I'm doing it because I want it's lovely to be able to chat jellyfish because that's what this channel is, and but also if in any way this serves as some kind of platform to help musicians that I respect, then and that I'm friends with as well, then that's great because I feel like that is the thing that I can do, hopefully. So like at the very least to sort of pay back all of the help that musicians have given me on like my projects and stuff like that. Because usually I'm quite shameless and I'm like, can you play on this for free, please? And then they normally do, which is lovely. And one of these days, I'll get found out and then they'll say no, but we'll see. Um, but yes, thank you again, Dan. And
My pleasure, man. Thank you for having me. Really
oh, not
appreciate
at
it.
all. I
Yeah,
want to see you play live in person again at some point, and
that'd be great.
we'll get me, you, and Harry together at some point.
Gotta happen.
That would be amazing. And yeah, I want to thank everyone for tuning in to Jellyfish, joining the fan channel. Please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And all links there for Dan will be posted below the video for you to check out as well. So until next time, we'll see you later.
So this is a song called A Story Before You Sleep, and it's got quite an interesting journey as well because I started writing this song, I don't know, about 10 years ago, and never really finished it. And then about 5 years later, I sort of dusted it off and wrote the final verse. Probably the record for the longest it's ever taken me to write a song. And it's still not really ended up anywhere or on an album or anything, but maybe give it another 5 years, I'll write another verse and then maybe it will find its way somewhere. This is a song called A Story Before You Sleep. A story before you sleep, but the ending was oh so cheap. So in my little world, when the boy meets the girl, it's a story before I sleep. A hand that I'd hate to lose, in the story before I sleep. There was a time when I gave up on love. It seemed like a riddle to me, but the minute I stopped overthinking it all, the best things came naturally. A story before you sleep. Now my dreams are always sweet, and in some ironic twist I'm now co-starring in someone's story before they sleep. In some ironic twist I'm now co-starring in someone's story before they sleep. See you in 5 years.